chairs in the lobby and people in the lobby watching in the overflow. So y'all in here today. Look at your neighbor, say, I'm glad I had a chance to worship beside you today. Amen. Amen. Numbers chapter 13, beginning at verse 27. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I don't really have a sermon for you. I do have a conversation. We're going to walk and we're going to talk. And when I get to the primary point that I'm looking to make, I'm going to press in on you a little bit because I feel that's where God is directing us today. And hopefully you find value out of today's experience. Numbers 13, beginning at verse 27. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are great in size. Let me pause. I'm not even talking about this. I'm going to talk about it just for a second. You got to be careful the people that you allow in your circle. It's one thing when people say what they can't do, but oftentimes lower thinking people aren't satisfied with what they can't do. They're only satisfied with what we can't do. So instead of saying, I can't do this, they will give you a bad report to talk you out of the promise that God has for you. Watch this. He says, we saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. This is how they saw themselves. So this was a personal issue, but then they start projecting and look the same to them. If you were here for week 1, you know this was a recon mission. They were sent as spies. When you go as a spy, you are not to be seen, not to be heard. So how are they imposing what another person thinks when they never talk to them, nor did they see them? That's called projection. I want us to go back to verse 30, and this is where our focus is going to be. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. Before you take your seat, tell 2 or 3 people around you, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Amen. Find you one more person on your row and tell them you can do it. Put your back into it. I'm sorry. I had to do it just one time. I've been holding that all day. I'm sorry. I had to. Somebody pop that thing too. Like, heard that one? Welcome to the City Church. Ladies and gentlemen, we are building on this series. We are now in week 3. I'm not going to take a lot of time for review. You can find these messages in our online community. In Numbers chapter 14, verse 6, Joshua, okay, so this is what I do need to do. So what we have is where God had promised the children of Israel to take them into a land of promise. It was a land that flowed with milk and honey. Milk and honey symbolisms of opportunity, that this land is going to be good for agriculture and for harvesting, etc. And he said, you're going to overtake the land, but before you do it, send 12 spies to get a quality report so you can prepare yourself for whatever needs to be done. And Moses picks 12 of his top leaders. He said, I want you to go over there to that promised land. Don't let nobody see you, because if they see you, they're going to kill you. I want you to go over there and check out the land and return to us data before we engage. So they go over and they are considering the land. And when they saw the land, they saw giants. They came back to Moses like, you told us this was some good land. And we saw the fruit and we saw the grapes. And we even brought some grapes back so you can see it. But you didn't tell us people were living there. Because many of us, we want our faith-filled things to fall out of the sky. But there's some seasons, even what you desire by faith, you're going to have to fight for it. And in many cases, you don't demonstrate how bad you want it until you model how far you're willing to go to fight for it. Now, I'm talking about me. I ain't talking about you, Mael. I'm talking about me. Listen, I'm not a fighter, guys. I'm not a fighter. Let's keep peace. Let's hug it out. You know what I'm saying? I think in all my time, I think I told you this before, I've been in one fight. It was in middle school. I was in middle school. We were out on the yard right there between the old building and the gym. They got a lot of new stuff now. Between that old building, and I'm just chilling out there, chilling in the cut, having a good time. And next thing I know, my head, I was in a headlock. I don't know. I ain't see it coming. It came so fast. I'm in a headlock. I can't breathe. And I'm like, oh, my God, I think I'm about to die. You know what I'm saying? And I got to do something. And I know if I hit somebody, I would have gotten suspended. But it was either that or going to see Jesus. And I ain't ever hit a girl so hard. You understand? I couldn't breathe. She had my nose right in her breast. I was about to go see Jesus, and I mushed her. Get off me, devil. I ain't never been, I'm not a fighter. You know what I'm saying? I just want to get along. But what I've learned is the people you don't want to mess with are the ones who don't want to fight. Because although I don't fight, don't think I can't. Right? I watch a little boxing, but I spent all my life watching wrestling. I know finger fours, I know scorpions, I know DDTs, I know suplexes, I know all the moves. I would climb up on top of the drainage and jump off with a swan dive, hit you with a Macho Man Randy Savage elbow right there across your heart. I'll do whatever I gotta do. Because if it comes between me dying and or surviving, you're going to get these paws today. And one of the problems I have with a lot of you new age Christians, you don't know how to fight for nothing. You spend all your life fighting. You've been fighting for attention. You've been fighting for women's in them. And now that you've given your life to Jesus, you done forgot how to fight. You've lost your joy. You've lost your peace. In some cases, you've lost your mind. I need you to nudge your neighbor and say, you're going to have to fight for this win. You got to learn how to fight again. And he said, listen, we didn't know they were giants, and we would have to fight for this. And all of a sudden, they said, well, tell us what you saw. And 10 said, they're too big for us. We look like grasshoppers to ourselves. And they thought the same thing about us. That was the report of the 10. But they were two, Joshua and Caleb. He said, no, we are more than able. God has promised, and we shall overtake the land. The 10 took their negative report. They begin to share it with the people. Just in case people begin to incite we can do it, they begin to pull them down before they ever got fired up. Anybody ever been in that position where you allowed somebody to talk you out of what God was pushing you toward? Said, and so this is the problem that we're in. And as we saw on last week, we see where God is now displeased with these spies. He's not displeased with all of them. He's displeased with 10. There were 12. 10 had a negative report. 2 had a positive report. The 2 with the positive report were in the minority. The 10 with the negative report was in the majority, which communicates if you generally ever want to do anything that impacts anything, you're often going to have to do it standing alone. If you need a group, if you need agreement, if you need everybody to be on your side, you ain't ever going to get nothing done. If you want everybody to like you, go sell ice cream. But if you're going to do anything worthwhile in this thing called life, there's just going to be some people who don't like you. They don't want to fool with you. And this is what we find in the book of Numbers chapter 14. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes, verse 7, and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into the land. land flowing with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord. Your inability to act on your faith is not just you losing out on a promise. It is you becoming an enemy or an op to God. You are now my opposition. So if you don't choose me, it means we're going against one another. So he says, whatever you do, don't rebel against the Lord. And he communicates in verse 8, only do not rebel against the Lord. Do not be afraid of the land, because we will devour them and their protection is gone. But the Lord is with us. He says in verse 1, chapter 14, that night all the members of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. And all the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron. And the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and our children will be taken plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back in Egypt? Jump with me to verse 22, chapter 14. We're almost there. Verse 22. Not one of those who saw my glory in the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times. Not one of them will ever see the land I promise. God says, not one of them will see the land, what? That I promise. But I thought God doesn't break promises. The Bible just communicates that they're not going to be able to go into the place that he promised. What happens? In this life, God is not going to dumb down to our level of agreement. We got to raise ourselves up and agree with what God is saying concerning us, despite what we see and despite what's going on around us. He said, not one of you. Why did he say this? Because I've done too much for you to doubt me now. I brought you through this. I brought you through that. You survived that storm because of me. I provided for you in this season. I did that. And now you're standing in front of a new storm. You're going to look back at me, the one who's been consistent all your days. I've been the consistent one all your days. And you're going to look back at me just because you have a new obstacle? This is what the Bible communicates to us, ladies and gentlemen. He says, not one of us, not one of you who after all of I've done, yet still doubts me, will see this land of promise. They didn't go into the promise, and they died in a wilderness. But Canaan was the promised place, but the wilderness was where they died. But the wilderness was not God's plan. It was their suggestion. In their complaining, murmuring, and mumbling. Tell somebody, you better watch your mouth. In their complaining and their murmuring, they said, why did he bring us out here? We would have been better off in Egypt or dying out here in this wilderness. Our wives and our children will be taken as plunder. And God said, have it your way. Y'all die right here. All of you who only could believe for this, congratulations. I'll let you and your family and your children die right here. But he says, even for those other two, he says, not one of them will ever see the land I promised. Verse 24, but because my servant Caleb has a different spirit, follows me wholeheartedly, I'll bring him into the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it. Verse 29, in this wilderness your bodies will fall, every one of them 20 years old or more, who was counted in the census and who grumbled against me. Not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except. Everyone say except. He begins to lay out these decrees. All of y'all who murmured against me, all of y'all 20 years older, yeah, see what's about to happen. You about to catch this smoke. Now, ain't none of y'all going into the land that I promised, except Joshua, Caleb, and their families. Now, I grapple with this, so I'm starting to think age. That maybe because Joshua and Caleb had a level of faith that they were able to believe God even in the middle of this storm, maybe they were a little younger, didn't go through the hardship. Maybe there was a significant age gap, and I couldn't see any of that. Not to that degree. They went through the same experiences. They went through the same storms. They endured the same seasons. But the same season, storm, and obstacle produced something different in all of them. The Bible lets us know that the spies all saw the same miracles. They survived the same storms. But what was produced in the 2 wasn't produced in the 10. And their process of transitioning from captivity to the wilderness, on their way to the promised land, they lost something. God, you're faithful. God, you can do it. God, you moved. And God, you open doors. But an obstacle comes, and they didn't have faith to believe. But God performed mighty miracles. Somewhere in the middle of their transition from almost and not yet, they lost something. Why is that important? Because some of us are more like the 10 than we know. We can become so busy and doing that going from one victory to the next, we don't realize, although I won, I lost something. Although I survived, all of me didn't come out. And the last storm that I was in, I left some of my hope over there. I left some of my peace over there. I left some of my joy over there. I left some of my faith over there. And it's easy to not realize what you lost when you become busy to where you can't see yourself. Can I take you a little bit further? This is what the Bible communicates. That the problem isn't that they lost it. The problem is they didn't realize what they lost until they needed it. They didn't realize they had lost their faith until they were asked, what is your faith saying? Nah, I don't have any more faith. I'm living in fear. We don't need to be doing that. I said, no, you are now antithetical to the plan, the will, the promise, the desires of God for our lives. Here's a question. What have you lost and don't realize it? But you're going to be asked about your future and your mouth is going to tell on you. I've been through a lot in this season. And through that season, if I be honest, I lost something. This is important because out of everything you cannot afford to lose, you can't afford to lose your faith. You can't afford to lose your faith. Now, if we be honest, there was some of us, when we first got saved, we believed God for everything. Everything. I remember when I was in college, all right, I used to go to the store, go to Food Lion. I used to believe, listen, I had $3 in my pocket. I gotta get enough out of this grocery store visit to last me the next 2 weeks. Now, I'm believing God that these oodles and noodles gonna be 12 for $1. I'm believing God. And I go in that store, and they want 12 for $1. They were 24 for $2. Won't he do it? Y'all crazy. Okay. Mine is a terrible thing to waste. All right? And I'm thanking God I'm going to be able to survive over the course of these next 2 weeks. Used to believe God for the simple things. When was the last time you allowed your faith to put God to the test? Lord, I'm believing God for you to open up doors for me and open up opportunities for me and make ways for me. Many of us don't have that same level of faith because in the process of transitioning from then to now, we lost something. I'm serving, but I lost something. I'm faithful, but I lost something. I am fighting still, but I don't fight the same because I lost something. Do you know what it's like to fight believing you're going to win, but preparing for a loss just in case? I lost. Why is this important? Because the Bible says in Hebrews 11:6, and without faith, it is impossible to please God. Because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. one of the things the most important thing you cannot afford to lose is your faith. Because faith is the currency of heaven. You go to different events. I got my little $10 in my pocket. You get to the door, they're like, yo, we're electronic only. We don't take cash. You're like, what type of club is this? Only. I thought I was going to get somebody. They was like, last night, they got me. I had my $10, wouldn't let me in there. All right? And because you don't have the form of currency that's used, the only currency that heaven takes is faith. You got to believe God, meaning that when you're without faith, you can't download anything from heaven. You can't extract or exchange anything from heaven without faith. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, during our time of prayer, we were having our time of prayer yesterday morning, and Justin Reese, he did our devotion. He said something that stuck, and I heard it. And I tried to let it go. I was like, it ain't all that. And it ain't all that. All right. And I couldn't let it go. And that thing just stayed on me. And I was like, okay, maybe I need this for a reason. So I kind of put it in my phone and said, I'm going to need this. And this is what he said. He said, God wants more for us, but it will require more from us. I give it to you again. God wants more for us, but it will require more from us. And this is what we find relative to the children of Israel and Joshua and Caleb. As we get into the book of Joshua, Moses is dead. God said, Joshua, Moses is dead. It's time to move on. It's the shortest eulogy we've ever seen. God said he's gone. Let's keep it moving. And then he begins to have this conversation with Joshua. Joshua, you are taking over now. And I haven't changed my plan that I have for these people. I am still going to take you into the place of promise. But along the journey from going to captivity to wilderness to the place of promise, you're going to run into obstacles. And can you still believe in me enough to know that not only am I the God of all things includes every obstacle you face. Now watch this now. Can I take you further? This is what it says in Joshua chapter 3, verse 7. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. He said, Joshua, I know you're concerned. You're new to this. You're taking over. Moses was a great leader. I'm going to do great things in you. These people are going to know that I'm with you. How will they know that I'm with you? Because I will perform miracles through you just like I performed through Moses. He said, all right, so let's get ready and do this thing. He says in verse 8, tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river. So we have the children of Israel. They have run into another obstacle, and the obstacle looks glaringly familiar. They are standing at the edge of the waters of the Jordan, similar to an obstacle they faced with Moses at the Red Sea. So God, in essence, is duplicating himself. Said, I'm going to keep you today just like I kept y'all there. Said, cool, so this is what we're going to do. He said, only problem is this Jordan, the waters are high because it's flooding season. So you're not going to make it by being able to walk through. So what you going to do then, God? I'm going to do for you today like I did for you yesterday. So you're going to divide the waters? Bet you by golly, wow. I am the one who still divides waters. Here's the problem. When they were facing the Red Sea, told Moses, stretch forth. Just, you see this right here? Do you look, Mayel? Look right here. He said, this is perfect. He said, stretch forth your rod. And then the waters begin to send back. And they had this beautiful water wall. And everything on the middle was dry. And they began to walk through on dry. Can you, listen, I would have been stunting through there. I would have been strolling. You understand? I would have been strolling through there, stunting on my haters. Like, look at what my God done did again. Right? So they've gone through one time, and then the enemy is coming behind them. They're like, oh my God. And as soon as the enemy gets in the middle of the waters, God allows the waters to fold back in. So the waters they walk through, their enemy drowned in. All right. That's story number one. Here's story two. Now we're in the book of Joshua. They're finding themselves against some troubling waters again. So yeah. But I am the God who's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. If I divided waters then, I'll do it again. So we're going to divide these waters. Here's the only problem, though. Because you've seen me do this before, and because I want more for you, I'm going to have to require more from you. Last time, the waters were divided before you ever moved. This time, I need you to believe me enough to move before the waters are divided. They said, no. There ain't going to be no rod. There ain't going to be no Moses stretching forth and y'all going by. I need you to trust me enough to be willing to stand in what could drown you, knowing that I can keep you. Who am I talking to in this room? I love what I do. I need you to believe me enough to be willing to risk your life and jump in the deep. Let me pause and parenthetically assert and talk to all my shallow water walkers. All my people who know what it's like to go to the beach and go to the pool but never get wet. I'm talking to all of y'all. I'm talking to you 40-year-olds who go to pool parties with floaties. Cut it out. You gonna learn how to swim today. At some point, you gotta be willing to jump into the deep and risk it all. He said, I am the same God yesterday, today, and forever. As I did for you then, I could do for you now. But although I am going to do it, I am not going to do it the same way. Because what you've seen me do, you shouldn't be at the same level of faith you were then as you are now. I need to see your faith being elevated. Now, what if I told you what you're going through isn't even about you? It's about your faith. So let me take you a step further, all right? So school's back in, kids back in school. What if you saw a progress report and you noticed that your child was studying the same material from the year prior? But you told me last year he was promoted. So why in a season of promotion are you giving him the same test? So why do we get mad at God when he challenges us and stretches us in new seasons? If you have been promoted and you have been increased, don't expect the same test in new season. I got to put more on you. So now, because of what you've seen me do, I did it then, I did this, I did this, I did this. You know that I'm able, so I need you to prove it. Step into the deep. Step out in the deep. I believe God. Do you really? Step into the deep. I heard this story recently. I haven't told it in a while. It's beautiful. When I heard it, I said, "Oh, this is so beautiful to my soul." And this gentleman, he did a lot of crazy feats, and he was over like the Grand Canyon or something, and he was walking across a tightrope, and everybody's around, and while he's walking across this rope, everybody's like, "Oh my God!" He risked it all. So he gets to the other side, they go crazy. And then next time, he gets a wheelbarrow. He pushes the wheelbarrow across that tightrope. Everyone's like, "It's amazing!" And they're like, "Oh, so you like what I'm doing?" They're like, "Yes!" I said, "So do you believe I can do it again?" They say, "Yes!" Well, if you believe, who's willing to sit in the wheelbarrow? I don't. I'm good. I done paid admission. I'm gonna watch over here. I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna catch you in that section. And many of us are in this space with God. Lord, I believe, until He says, "Step into the deep." Do you believe that I can rescue you from deep waters? I just want you to step out there and believe it. Here's the problem, though. We have these 12 broken in groups of the 10 and the 2 who believed, the 10 who didn't. The 10 who didn't, I don't believe they were bad people. They lost something along the way. The problem is some of us are struggling today in their faith. I'm struggling. Lord, how you leave me out here? I shouldn't be here. And you're closer to turning back than you are going forward. The problem is you are struggling in your faith because you are disconnected from a generational God. So when we see the Old Testament, they serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That way, if I was going through my issue today, I can always remember the God of my father was faithful. The God of my grandfather was faithful. The God of my great-grandfather was faithful. Despite what I'm in, he's the God who's been faithful to my entire family through the years. So I don't have to be concerned with where I am now. If he's been faithful to them, he's going to be faithful to me. And if he has not shown up, it is not because he's not on the way. Who am I talking to in this room? Watch this. The Bible says, for perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. For those of us with children, so much going on in the world. You tell your children, be safe, blah, 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 blah. If you ever get in trouble, you call me. Call me. I don't care what you're in. I don't care where you are. Just call me. We fix all that later. If you're in trouble, if I can find out where you are, one thing you can rest assured, Mama and Daddy is on their way. That is a perfect love. And even when I'm facing obstacles and trouble, I don't have to be afraid within it because I've been perfected in love. Meaning, my Father loves me too much to leave me here. And for someone who's struggling in your faith today, I came to tell you God loves you too much to leave you where you are. He loves you too much to let you die in that. God's a keeper. Someone say God's a keeper. So this is what we find, ladies and gentlemen, as we get to Joshua chapter 3, verse 15. Now the Jordan is at flood stage, all during the harvest. Jump to verse 17. And the priests carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord and stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground while all Israel passed by. This is starting to look familiar, like a story we've heard before. God is proving himself again. He says in verse 14, that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of Israel, and they stood in awe of all the days of his life, just as they stood in awe of Moses. This was important, but it shouldn't be surprising, because before we get to Joshua 3 and 4, one of my favorite passages is found in Joshua 1. Moses is dead. Let's continue the work. So Joshua, as you go forward, here's something you need to know. Whatever happens, no matter what happens, don't get scared. He ain't say scared. He said, be not afraid. Whatever happens, don't fear. Why would God tell us not to fear? Because he knows we're going to be put in positions where if fear is present, it makes sense. That obstacle is going to be tough. This situation is going to be trouble. He said, don't be of good courage. Whatever you do, keep the word close to your heart. Keep it on your lips. Meditate on it day and night. And then your way shall be made prosperous and you shall have good success. And let me command you again. Be of good courage. Be strong. And last caveat he gives, and if you don't find faith in anything else, know that whatever you face, I'm with you. I'm with you. So even as I'm grappling in what I'm in, my perception of a thing is determined by who's with me. How I view my obstacle, my circumstance, and my situation is determined by who I feel like is with me. If I feel like I'm by myself, all you long-nailed, no fighting in here, you're going to be in trouble. But for those of you who kind of grew up like me, on the other side, I didn't fight a lot, but you didn't want to fight me because when it came to survival, anything goes. I'm not going to get too afraid because I'm not by myself. I believe that God is with me. And he communicates to Joshua, he communicates the same thing to us. Despite what you're in, know that God is with you. But maybe more importantly, After they come through the Jordan, Joshua doesn't leave it there. He said, hey, all you 12, do me a favor. I want you to go over there and grab a big rock and bring it over here. Go over there, grab a big rock, bring it over here. He said, all right. So they went to get their rocks. They went to get their stones. They brought them back. Said, what are we going to do? We're going to create an altar. We're going to create an altar. Say, all right. So we about to sacrifice? Nah, not here. This altar's different. Altars could be a place of sacrifice in their day, but an altar also was a memorial. Joshua realized through the point of transition, our brothers who weren't afforded to see this land, they lost something. They lost something because they lost sight of the faithfulness of God. And as God has performed a miracle again, we want to ensure that generations down the line, we don't see this habit resurface, because from going from here to there, our children lose something. So today we celebrate that God has brought us out, but we got to understand our children are being brought in to something. I don't know what, but while I'm being brought out, our seed is being brought in, and part of their survival is contingent upon their faith, and part of their faith is contingent upon the altars you build. Altars not for the intent of sacrifice, but as a memorial, a reminder when life gets hard, and it's easy to forget that God has been faithful. For many of us, it is this struggle that we have within ourselves. I'm struggling in my faith. Faith was never supposed to be individualistic or isolated. Faith is community-based. There ought to be times that when I'm struggling in my faith, I can lean on your testimony. Tell me what God did for you. If he did it for you, he'll do it for me. I can go another step further. Your testimony helps to bring me out. But we're in such an electronic generation that we have forgot how to share these stories. We forgot how to tell how God provided, how God made ways. And so when we find ourselves isolated, God, you have left me. I've never left you. I've always been with your family. Ask your mama. Call her. Ask her. This is so good. You know what one of the things I got to work with my parents never, Jesus. Y'all better not say nothing about my mom and daddy. You understand? He's still working on me. You get paused a day. My mom and daddy were good. One of the things my mom and daddy did is they never argued in front of us. Never. Now, they were in the room with the door closed a lot. And that can mean one or two things. I don't even want to think about that no more, to be honest. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm moving past this. Forget that whole story. I'm done. I'm scarred. You understand? I'm scarred. I don't even want to. They were in that room a lot with the door closed. And because I never saw them fight, to be honest, I never knew couples did. And sometimes when you experience something in marriage that you didn't know was normal, your first thought is to flee. I ain't gonna spend my day fighting with you. I ain't never saw my mom and daddy fighting. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean they. And we are in a proud generation where we don't want nobody to know what we're going through. And because we don't want people to know we're going through, when I start going through, I start to feel less than and abnormal because there ain't nobody going through but me. Everybody going through. Some people just wear it differently. When you go through, you braid your hair. When she go through, she put her wig on. When she go through, she cut her hair. Everybody go through differently, but everybody's going through. And as a result, it's our responsibility standing on the other side of through that before I dance and just say, God did it, I need to create a space. So when my children pass this journey, and life gets hard, let me stop you right here. You see this? Boy, woo. You see this place? This, you never knew this when you were younger. Now you're older. I need to tell you about this because one day you're going to cross around this place again, but I'm not going to be able to be with you. But because I gave you my story, the testimony will always live. It was in this place that God opened a door. It was in this place that God made a way. It was in this place that God moved on our behalf. If it wasn't for him moving here, you wouldn't be there. So before you're ready to throw in the towel in your little faith conflict today, remember the God who was faithful then is the same God who's faithful now. So here is the maturing process of our faith, however. So I don't know how long you've been in Goldsboro. For some of you, the only store you've ever shopped at in Goldsboro is Harris Teeter. I feel a little bougie over here. Little Harris Teeter over here. I sense a little niggly wiggly over there. Don't worry. Please forgive me. Don't everybody try that at home now. Don't you? It's the year of 2024. Don't catch these paws. All right? So just depend on your situation. Before there was Harris Teeter and Carly C's and all that stuff, Food Line. You keep talking out, though. You get your wife, man. Get your wife. Don't keep talking out like that. And, before there was all that, how many of y'all remember Farm Fresh? Does that room get quiet? 9 o'clock, that was like Farm Fresh. 11 o'clock, like, Farm, what is that? Farm Fresh. Farm Fresh was the first Walmart. Matter of fact, Farm Fresh literally was Walmart before Walmart was. Right there on Spence Avenue. Before there was Walmart, there was Farm Fresh. And y'all know I stayed in church all my life. All my life. And while you heathens were going to Friday football games and going to parties and what not, I was in the house of the Lord. The problem is, a lot of my friends didn't know, they never saw me out in public. And because they never saw me out in public, they always put this assumption on me, like, well, you smooth. I know you killing them. You dropping them down. I don't never see you on the weekend. I know what you were doing. And me and my insecure self, I just played along. You know me, player. I be getting it in. They don't even know I was at church. Trumpet, trumpet of deliverance. I was in church from 7 to 11. I was in church. And so, y'all crazy. And so when church was over, like we didn't have a lot of money, so we weren't going to get food, all that stuff. Well, we would stop by Farm Fresh. I remember Farm Fresh, Friday night, snack of Friday nights. Don't judge me. This is all we could afford. My parents, they get they get a pack of liver pudding. First of all, if you don't know how to fry bologna, don't even say nothing right here. Your bougie butt. Don't even be a part of this conversation. And so they used to get liver pudding, and it was a pack of liver pudding, and it fed the whole family. They're like 7 of us. I mean, we stretched that thing now. Got some light bread. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what I'm talking about here. You're like, what is this? What is going on here? All right. What's so funny is I used to love to go to Farm Fresh. And Farm Fresh, back in the middle, I think it was like a seafood department like in the middle, and right in the front of it, they had that WWE video game. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I used to play that, but no, I ain't play it. I used to wish to play. I used to be like, Mama, give me a quarter. I wish I would give you a quarter for that game. I'm just sitting there wishing I'm playing, right? But the thing I loved about Farm Fresh is Farm Fresh enacted new technology. So normally when you went into doors, you would always have to use force. Farm Fresh modeled something different. their doors weren't manual. Their doors were automatic. You didn't open the door because you pushed it. You opened the door when you stepped into it. When I stepped into the door, it activated the laser, and automatically the power began to open the door. There was a season where open doors for me came by force. Then Farm Fresh introduced another season where open doors came by faith. You got to be willing to see a closed door and step into it, believing that before my foot hits the ground, something's going to get ready to open for me. And God is maturing your and my faith in such a way that we're no longer in a season of forced doors. You're walking into a season of faith doors. Tell somebody, move and get out my way. This season of faith doors. In the season of faith doors, stretching your rod preventatively may not work. In a season of faith doors, you got to be willing to step in drowning waters, believing that the God who kept you then is also the God who's going to keep you now. Stand to your feet all across the room. So why is this important for me, ladies and gentlemen? It's important for me because some of us are getting ready to go into the biggest seasons of our lives. And because you've gotten so busy, from between going from then to now, your faith has been leaking. And you've been too busy to notice. And you're going to stand face to face with your biggest opportunity, and your mouth is going to tell on you. And I can't afford to get to that moment to realize what I needed. I lost it in that last battle. So there got to be moments in between wars and in between battles where we got to have a season of peace so all the good soldiers can go home and tighten up their wounds. And I want to make sure even when it comes to ministry, we don't get so busy going from victory to victory to victory to victory that we don't have a season that we sit with our best warriors and say, show me where you got hurt and I didn't see it. While you were battling over here, I was battling over there. We celebrated survival, but now we're no longer in public. Show me your wound. Some of us know what it's like to bless him while we're bleeding. But that should never become doctrine. He bled so you might live. Your bleeding doesn't bring value to nobody. You don't get extra points for your suffering. You don't get a mansion in heaven because you're struggling. None of that. He said, I came that you might have life, and that life more abundantly. And that doesn't just include things. In many cases, for some of us, there's not a price you can put on peace. Right now, if I could just have peace, for some of us, you would risk it all to see the healing and the wholeness of a loved one. It's not always things, it's relative. But I want to see where you are today. Can you be honest and say, I survived, but I left something in the fight? If we don't have these opportunities, you're going to die in the next fight because you were never prepared for it. Today, I really, really wanted to press upon my heart to touch those of you who have been through a lot. And if you be honest, I lost something in the fight. You're the ones I'm here for today. I don't want you to end up like the 10 because you got so busy. When you found the opportunity, your fear spoke instead of your faith. After what I've been through, I don't believe the same way. I don't pray like I used to. It's just a reality. I'm really hurting. I'm I'm talking to you. If that's you, I want you to get out of your seat. I want you to come to me really quickly. I want us to be able to cover you. I'm not pressing anybody to do anything, but if you know I'm talking to you, I want you to take your time and hurry up. Get down here as fast as you can. I want you to get here as fast as you can. I lost something. 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 PT, I'm here, but I'm not here. I lost something.